So our topic for this week is market research. And when we talk about market research, what we are looking at is the way in which businesses collect, manage, and use information about the market. So this week we have 5 learning objectives, which take us all the way through the process, starting with understanding why it's important for businesses to understand the marketplace and consumers. And then we're going to understand the whole system of marketing information and the different parts, and then the steps which businesses have to go through to complete that market research process. We're going to understand how companies analyze and use market information, and we're going to discuss any special issues around that. But we're going to start in this first video by understanding the importance of information and why that's necessary for businesses to gain insights about the marketplace and customers. So let's begin by looking at an example. This is some market research that was conducted by Mintel, and it's about how businesses might go about marketing to students who come from China. So what we've got here is some information and perhaps more importantly, some insights into some of the buying behavior of these students. So let's start with this. This is where Mintel looked at what are the things that Chinese students look for when they're choosing a brand to buy. And they've compared 2 years here. 2016 is the green bar and 2017 is the orange bar. And what we see here very clearly straight away is that in 2017, the most important thing for Chinese students was that the brand represented high quality. 57% of students wanted that, Chinese students. Secondly, 39% of them wanted good value for money. Thirdly, 34% of them wanted to buy into brands that were trendy, that were on trend. And 17% were interested in luxury. It's interesting to look back at 2016 and see how these things do change over time, and they will have changed again. So it's important that when we're doing market research, we get the most up-to-date figures. So the second thing that this research looked at was, what are the most important things that Chinese consumers want to buy when they're students? And unsurprisingly, top of the list for students from China was digital devices. They're things that every student needs, aren't they? 62% of Chinese students said they wanted to buy a digital device. That was followed up by much smaller percentages, but even so, 8%, for example, of the Chinese student market is still a big number of students. So 8% of these students said they were interested in buying luggage and bags. The same percentage were interested in beauty and skincare products, and so on. So these are some really good insights for businesses in those different markets to understand how big their market of Chinese students is likely to be. This one is also interesting because this looks at whether those students make the decision on their own or whether they listen to their parents. And you can see how that differs. The green figures are the percentage of students who said they solely rely on their own decision making. For example, when it comes to marriage and intimate relationships, half of them said they make their own decision. However, 32% said they listen to their parents. When it comes to careers, more Chinese students are likely to listen to their parents than make their own decision all on their own. When we look at more consumer-led products like fashion and buying clothes and so on, the percentage of students who rely on themselves for that decision tends to be higher than those who listen to their parents, but parents are still important. So when it comes to fashion and style, 39% of Chinese students said they listen to their parents. Why does this matter? Well, if I'm a business marketing fashion and style goods to Chinese students, I need to understand that I must not just appeal to the student, but I also need to appeal to their parents if I'm going to make a successful sale. And that will influence, as a business, the decisions we make about our products and our promotions and so on. Okay, so that's one example of how insights from the marketplace really help businesses to make decisions. And that's why this marketing information is so important. So, for example, it's quite difficult for businesses to determine what their customers need and why, what their motives for buying. Only market information, market research will tell them that often. And if companies are going to have those insights about customers and the whole marketplace, those insights need to be accurate and based on evidence. And so research is important there. These days, information is generated in huge quantities, isn't it? As we go around the internet, our data is collected in every step that we make. So there is a lot of this information out there. The key thing for marketers is, can we turn that information into something useful for our business? In other words, can we turn it into insights? So we hear a lot these days about big data. And big data refers to that huge and complex number of data sets that are generated as we move around the internet, as we use our mobile phones, as we live our everyday lives. So just as an example of this, I have a Google phone. I use Google Mail. I have a Google Calendar. And I'm just trying to think. I have lots of Google things. So Google knows a lot about me. Google knows, for example, when my birthday is. It knows how old I am. It knows when I go out. It tracks me with location service. It knows the kinds of places I'm likely to go to. It knows what I look at when I go around the internet. When I look at different sites on the internet, it knows what I'm looking at. So Google has a really detailed picture of me and my preferences and the things I like to do. So that's a huge amount of data. Again, what businesses need is for that to be distilled down into insights that they can use. But it does provide real detail that we haven't seen before. So these customer insights are incredibly powerful. What are they? Well, they tend to be fresh, new marketing, information-based understandings of customers and the marketplace. So a customer insight is not just information, it's understandings based on evidence. Understanding who your customer is, understanding what your customer likes, understanding when your customer wants to do things and how they want to do things, as well as, of course, as understanding the marketplace and your competitors. So these insights can become the basis for creating customer value, and they can become the basis for engaging with your customers, and they can become the basis for building relationships with your customers. So customer insight teams collect this sort of information from a wide variety of sources. And as the example I gave earlier, this can be about how you surf around the internet. It can be about how you physically move around in the world. It can be about things that you put onto social media that are gathered. It can be about purchases you make, all sorts of information that will come together. So it's these customer insights that have really helped many businesses to succeed. And one example of that is Pinterest, the social scrapbooking site. That's become hugely successful. It has over 70 million users. And one of the reasons for that is that Pinterest knows a lot about us. It knows to suggest things that we are likely to be interested in because it has that access to big data from all of those different sources. So we're going to stop there. In our second video, we're going to look at the marketing information system and how that works. But for now, there are a few questions for you to answer.